Good morning. Welcome to this Wednesday edition of Shields and Arrows. I am Pastor Mark Baze, and this is the hour dedicated to defending the faith, the family, and the fellowship. I'm glad that you have decided to swing by and see what we have to discuss. We got a few different things that we're going to bring up today. A little bit of matters of culture. Talk about a matter concerning Dove, the soap company, and how you should be boycotting them and why it's a good thing. And why you should maintain other boycotts that you may have, whether that's Bud Light, which, me as a preacher, I, don't really have to worry about. It didn't ruin my life. All right, let's just put it that way, that I did not, have the ability to drink Bud Light anymore. And we're also going to look at an interesting article from the Gospel Coalition and actually how they may be kind of right. And the reason why is because it has really nothing to do with theology. It's about some other matter. And I want to look at it and discuss it. We'll probably wrap it up with a Life Church's Guide to Reading the Bible. And if we have any other time after that, we are going to maybe look at a question that I received from someone online. So a little bit extra Q&A for this Wednesday. I'll remind you tonight we're going to be going live with our study on Abraham. So if you want to get a good biblical understanding of Abraham and the biblical narrative, finding the biblical truth, then I recommend you come and check all of that out. All right, so with all of that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the Dove story. And this is not the first time that Dove body soap, body wash has jumped into the, woke agenda. From the Daily Wire here, Dove slammed for using a masculine model to advertise women's products again. Yeah, so they've done this before. They make all sorts of soap and whatnot. But once again, they decided to use a confused man for promoting their women's soap, right? So with that, I'm going to go ahead and show you a little bit of the live feed video here. This is a man who is being in a commercial for Dove soap. And, you can put lipstick on a pig, as the saying goes, and it doesn't change anything. And so Dove is receiving quite a bit of backlash. It is amazing to see, because you would really think in the year of 2025, this wouldn't be a smart move after you've seen what happened to Bud Light and some other companies, Target and whatnot, facing some pretty severe boycotts. And yet, Dove is leaning into it. And so it was a 6-second ad posted by Dove back in February, and it has, eventually made its rounds and people are finding it. I don't really get Dove soap ads on my Facebook page, whatnot. But yes, this is a man who's confused, believes himself to be a woman, and yet he's a man. So here's the thing. I could go in and read the whole article and we could talk about it, but here's my point, okay? Make them pay. Make them pay for it. Boycott Dove. I don't know what soap products you may be using. Go to something else, all right? Now, it may be kind of difficult because I don't know what all soap options you have, and Dove may be pretty popular, but go with something else. Boycott Dove. And I believe that it is the right thing to do, because you really can. I think you can, and it's been proven. You can change culture and the politics of major corporations if you let your wallet do the talking, all right? There have been, Bud Light has been on an apology tour, even though they've never said it. They're trying so hard with their different commercials that they do and all of this. It really is quite pitiful. Bud Light has paid the price, and a lot of companies are looking at Bud Light and they're saying, I don't want to be them. They don't want to be the next Bud Light. But make Dove the next Bud Light, okay? They've been doing it for quite some time, and just you need to be reminded ever so often, okay? There's a number of companies out there that have leaned into the politics, and some politics are more easily, or some social matters are more easily fought against than others. So it really seems like the trans ideology is one you can get some ground on. Unfortunately, maybe some of the DEI, the racial politics stuff doesn't quite seem to be having the same degree of success in the realm of boycotting, but Dove is one that you can do it. And so there's a reason why a lot of companies are separating themselves, distancing themselves from the LGBT stuff, and even to a degree the DEI. And these things can be accomplished. We can make people, companies, organizations, corporations acknowledge us if we don't be apathetic, okay? You do have to care. Now, it may cause some inconvenience, all right? You may have your favorite soap and it's Dove, or you may have enjoyed cracking a cold one, right? A cold Bud Light. I'm sorry. I don't think anybody, though, viewed Bud Light as their favorite. From what limited knowledge I have, I don't think it was considered like the Rolls-Royce Cadillac of beers. So even if it inconveniences you, as much as you may like Target, as much as you may like Dove, as much as you may like fill in the blank, be willing to inconvenience yourself and stop being so apathetic, okay? Be willing to put yourself in a little bit of discomfort, all right? Or maybe you're at least taking a little bit of convenience from your life, okay? Inconvenience yourself just a little bit, all right? If we would be willing to no longer be apathetic and just accept that, hey, I'm going to have to be more careful about where I shop, how I shop, what I do. Let your money do the talking. And the whole matter of being apathetic, it extends much further beyond boycotting companies like Dove, who are putting confused men in their commercials, dressed up in lipstick, trying to mimic a woman. It goes to churches as well, okay? And to a degree, I'm talking to a pretty niche group here, because either you are a member of a rightly dividing church, good sound Bible doctrine, you are someone who is not necessarily a member at a physical location, but you are a part of ministry, right? You're a part of mine. I mean, a lot of people that I get to look at the chat and I can see who all is here, a part of this ministry and this chat that we have going on. So many of you are a part of my ministry and you help, and we have a kind of a fellowship, and I've met many of you, whether in person or at least online. And so you're kind of a part of a niche group here. But there are some, though, who may be watching this who are a part of a church somewhere else, okay? And your church is not teaching sound doctrine. And I would say maybe we could even expand beyond that. Your church is not really teaching any doctrine, okay? So maybe it's the hyper-evangelical. Maybe that's the term. They want to call us hyper-dispensationals. Maybe we can call them hyper-evangelicals. Super into the sight, the sound, the feel, very little doctrine. It's all about getting your dopamine hit for the week, and then you go on your merry way. And you're a part of that church. Or maybe you're a part of a church that is, not rightly divided. Maybe it's leaning more towards covenant, reformed theology, if you will. The problem is that there's a reason why so many churches are falling into Calvinism, and that is because it is apathy by the congregation, okay? The pastor will get up there and he will say things, even though he may not be openly Calvinist, he will say things that are subtly Calvinist, all right? Maybe throwing in God's sovereignty a lot, right? Maybe he'll even use the term affectionate calling. Things of that nature that maybe he doesn't have to come out and say, let me preach on TULIP, the 5 points of Calvinism, right? But maybe he's using a little bit, God chose you, some of those kind of words, right? And maybe it bothers you, but you're being willfully ignorant. You're thinking, I don't know. That doesn't necessarily mean that he's Calvinist, okay? I would be willing to say, based upon my observation in southeastern Oklahoma, all right? Southeastern Oklahoma, maybe even you could expand that to eastern Oklahoma in general, maybe even northern Oklahoma, because I did spend a little bit of time up in Tulsa. More than likely, if your pastor is not openly anti-Calvinist, all right? If your pastor is not openly anti-Calvinist, he's probably Calvinist. All right, plain and simple. Because if you're not, you have a conviction about the matter. You have a conviction and you are willing to speak out against it because you believe it's a bad, incorrect doctrine. And it has so much influence. It is so common. It is so widespread. So listen to me very carefully. If I'm talking to somebody today and you're, in the comments section, you're chatting, which most of you that are in the chat, you're not really, Kristen's here with us today, and Kristen goes to our church. Her preacher's not Calvinist. But if you're listening today, you're not commenting, but you're just listening, maybe you haven't really seen us before, maybe this is kind of new, or maybe you've been following the ministry just a little bit, but you still don't know a whole lot about it. If your preacher, getting back to the whole thing, if your preacher is not openly against Calvinism, just assume he's Calvinist. He just is, okay? And now, if you're Calvinist, then, hey, there you go. I'm sure you're happy, right? Your preacher agrees with you. But if you're not, okay, if you do not agree with Calvinist theology, for a number of reasons, if you are apathetic about the matter and you just assume that he's either not Calvinist or his Calvinism's not going to really affect your congregation, you are living in willful ignorance, okay? Your apathy is going to lead your church down the road of accepting the Westminster Confession, all right? And it's also true whether we're, let's go back to evangelicalism. If you are not content with the shallow Bible teaching and feel good, rah-rah, go-get-'em tiger type sermons, as opposed to really actually understanding what the Bible teaches and doctrine and all those things, your apathy is not going to get you anywhere, all right? It's just not. Plain and simple. Stop being apathetic. Now, what does that look like, okay? What does not being apathetic look like? One way is you having a meeting with your preacher, all right? Schedule a meeting, which for me, it's quite easy. My congregation can call me and we talk on the phone, just on the phone a lot. But also, if anybody does want to meet with me, I make myself pretty readily available. So get a hold of your preacher. If he's Mr. Big Time, if it's First Baptist Big Town or whatever, yeah, you may have to schedule a meeting. Call him. He'll put you on his schedule in 3 months. Wait your 3 months and then sit down and ask him, listen, I want to know your doctrine. You're saying some things that make me wonder if you hold to Calvinist theology. Do you hold to Calvinist theology? And if he hum-haws and says, I'm a 4-point Calvinist, or whatever, or I'm not a Calvinist, I'm just a biblicist, okay? If he says that, I'm not a Calvinist, I'm a biblicist, probably means he's Calvinist. If he's not openly refuting it. So if that's the case, then you need to tell him, well, I don't agree with it. A number of other people disagree with it. We need to figure this out because you're our preacher and it's your job to be teaching us the Scripture. You should be apt to teach and you should be building up the church with doctrine, and we need to be of one accord, of one mind, of one spirit on this doctrine. And you need to have that conversation. Those are difficult conversations. Those are not easy, okay? They're not. The topic of doctrine can be very divisive. There's a reason why churches avoid it. All right, there's a reason why they don't want to talk about it. They want to steer clear from it as much as possible because it is uncomfortable. But you need to do it. Now, if the pastor is not willing to address it, if they're not willing to consider the matter and teach what the congregation believes in, and they're going to teach a doctrine contrary to what the church holds to, well, you got to do something about it, right? Either vote him out, get him to change his tune, something, okay? Now, what happens if you can't? What happens if the pastor refuses? What if you don't have enough in the congregation, all right, to vote him out or to have any serious weight and influence, at the very least, how he teaches the Bible? Maybe you're not going to change his doctrine, but maybe you'll at least get him to quit trying to shove Calvinism, from the pulpit. You can try to convince people in the congregation. That's a lot of work. If they are Calvinist already, it would be very difficult. If they are just kind of on the fence and they don't really have any strong conviction one way or the other, then maybe you'll have some success, but they may not even see why it matters. They may not even realize that it's important. So realize that you may have some obstacles to deal with. But what happens then? If you're not able to persuade the congregation, if you're not able to change the doctrine that your preacher is teaching, or to at least address the doctrine your preacher is teaching, if you say, well, I tried, and now you're just going to sit in that pew Sunday after Sunday, arms folded, not really doing anything, I would encourage you, don't be apathetic for the sake of loyalty, okay? And I'm not knocking people that have done this, okay? There may be a man who, he's tried. I know there's men like this. I know men personally who have done this. They know that whatever doctrine or ministry qualities that a certain preacher is going to bring to a church will not be edifying to the congregation. It's not what is best. He tries his best, does his due diligence, talks to the selection committee. He may have been on the selection committee, the search committee, the pastor search committee, and all of those things. And yet they don't listen. They hire him. And he's a apathetic member for 5 years while the preacher's there, and then the preacher eventually leaves or what have you. He stays a member of the church because his mentality is, this is my church. I'm committed to the church. And there is something admirable about that sense of loyalty. There really is something admirable about loyalty, but I don't think loyalty is the end-all, be-all of what it means to be a good man of faith, a good church member, or good Christian, okay? I think conviction and doing what is best and necessary overrides loyalty. And I'm not saying just to abandon a church at the drop of a hat the second that y'all disagree on what color the carpet needs to be. I'm not telling you that. Don't misunderstand. What I am saying is, do what you can, and then if you find yourself in a situation where week in and week out, the ministry of the church, the sermons, the doctrine being taught is not conducive to sound doctrine, not building up the church nor building up your family, don't feel a sense of guilt or as if you are doing something wrong by saying, all right, honey, let's pack it up and go somewhere else. We did the best we could. I think that's what needs to happen, because if people start leaving, as I would say your last resort, you don't want to immediately just abandon ship. Don't just immediately leave the church the second something goes wrong. But when you've exhausted other resources, when you've tried, you've had meetings, you've had conversations, when it gets to a point, let your feet do the talking. Tell them how you feel about it through your actions. And don't be apathetic. I think that's going to be much better. I think that's going to lead to churches just like these companies, these corporations looking around and realizing, oh, they didn't like it when we had a man dressed up in lipstick. The preacher, the congregation, whoever, they're going to say, oh, they don't like it that this guy is preaching Calvinist theology, or they don't like it how this preacher's doing there's a whole number of other things the preacher could be doing. It's typical evangelical, not studying the Bible, getting up there and telling stories and trying to play on people's heartstrings or whatever. Alternatively, could be the conduct of the preacher, maybe the way he raises his family, the way he leads his wife, the way he, whatever. There could be a number of reasons why a preacher is not suitable for a role, for a job. And so don't let apathy prevent you from doing what you got to do. Okay? Don't mistake apathy for loyalty. Don't mistake apathy for dedication. And just as in society, if we can stop being apathetic towards all these corporations and whatnot that are pushing bad ideology, if we'll have people who stop being apathetic in churches, if your preacher will not just be honest about his theology, call him out on it. Maybe I'm using strong language there, but talk to him about it. Try to get a meeting. Try to get him to articulate and actually communicate what he believes about the Bible, what his doctrine and theology is. All right? If you are a church member, once again, listen to me so carefully, and I would recommend going back. We had an episode a while back on how to choose a church. If your preacher cannot tell you what he believes about eschatology, if your preacher cannot tell you what he believes is a good Bible translation, go somewhere else. There are better places to be, okay? There are better places to be, and it would be better to go somewhere else than to remain at that church for the sake of doctrine. Because here's the thing, especially if you're a father and you're bringing your children to that church, your priority is not to that church. Your priority is to your family. And you will tell your family, you'll tell your kids, I'm sorry, but we're not going to that church anymore because they're not doing what they should be doing. The preacher's not doing his job, whatever, and I've got to make sure that I am raising you in an environment in which you'll receive good Bible teaching, and it will be for your benefit, what's best for you. And probably loyalty to churches is one of the big obstacles, why people just won't change, why they're not willing to let their feet do the talking, because my great-grandpa, my great-grandma were members of this church. You get that probably a lot. In small communities, big communities, it doesn't matter, right? We go back generations to this church. But I do think you have to reconfigure what your loyalty is to, okay? Is your loyalty to the church, or is your loyalty to your family and sound doctrine, sound Bible teaching? Because if that's your dedication, there's a number of people here who don't go to a church, at least not in person. They watch online services and they support churches the best they can. I know some of you have not even given to my ministry, but you've given to the church itself, and I thank you for that because it helps me. It makes the preacher look good when there's people who are donating to the church who have never attended necessarily. So thank you for that. That means a lot. I would encourage you to have that be your motivation, that be your primary objective, okay? And unfortunately, one reason why some people may feel that way is due to a sermon or some position that preachers have taught before, that you got to be loyal to your church, loyal to your congregation. Don't quit when times get hard. Truth is, I think a lot of that is not actually grounded biblically. We don't really see that. You could try to argue, well, the Israelites didn't stop. They didn't quit. They didn't just abandon it, even though they fell into a lot of idol worship and we're not Israel under the law. I think you are better off searching for a church that's going to teach you good sound doctrine. And unfortunately, it may not be your local church. And if you want to go to a local church and it's not teaching sound doctrine, I guess you got two options. Either start your own or change one of the ones nearby. I'm working on changing one of the ones nearby, which we have, I think. I think we got her whipped into shape. We've taken the qualities that they had before that were already good, and we've just mixed it with good doctrine, and now we are well on our way to getting some good things done. See, Paul has a comment here. He says, hot take, all exclamation points. I don't disagree. I have the same viewpoints, but isn't there something in the Bible where Jesus says not to be wrapped up in the politics of the world? Of course, I'm paraphrasing. I'm trying to think of what passage you may be using there, Paul. You just specifically say Jesus. Would it be... I'm trying to do a search for a phrase here. Of the world, maybe. You've heard the phrase, in the world, not of the world, things like that. Maybe, are you possibly, well, I don't know if that would even be it. Here we go, maybe John 15:19. Is that possibly what you're arguing there? If the world hate you, ye know that it hated me before it hated you. And ye were of the world. The world would love his own, but because you're not of the world, but I have chosen you out of the world, therefore the world hateth you. Maybe are you trying to argue from that passage? Possibly. I mean, the word politics is not a word you're going to find in the King James Bible. You may not even find it in modern translations. I would say if there is a passage used to articulate, Robert mentions render unto Caesar, and that was one I was also thinking of, maybe render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. If there is any passage that somebody may use to argue that Christians have no role in politics, it's really going to be in the context of Jesus talking to the Jews, which really would be the disciples, about matters of seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. Really in that context, that listen, you are being offered the kingdom. You need not concern yourself with matters of the world. You should be seeking the Lord and the kingdom, is what you need to be doing. Which is really a different objective than what we have today, because the kingdom's not on the table for us today, in which if we will be obedient, if we will persevere, if we will endure, that God will come and take control of everything on earth and it'll all be, peaches and cream. Rather, we have the gospel. And it's our objective to stand for the gospel, to persuade men. And in the meantime, there's going to be nations in the world, and it's really going to be kind of what we make of it. We can build a disciple, we can build a disciple. We can build a community, a society, I think that's what I meant to say, that will honor God, or we can sit back and let society fall into more depravity. So I think that while I understand that there are some passages in the Gospels that Jesus would say some things that make you think, maybe we don't really need to be worried about what Dove is putting in their commercials. The problem is, who decides what our society is going to tolerate, stand for, engage in? It's us. We're the ones that are a part of the country, the nation, society, whether that's America or wherever else. So, dispensationally, I think we need to be engaged because it's going to be what we make of it. Hope that helps there, Paul. Captain Silva says, do Calvinists believe in the rapture? And then Ryan, our good friend, makes a good point that many Calvinists are amillennial. Yeah, most Calvinists I would say, most, are not going to hold to a pre-tribulation rapture. They're not going to hold to any idea or concept that we will be raptured before the tribulation. Calvinists are not, they don't fit into a nice little box. Some Calvinists are going to be, they may have a literal view of the 7-year tribulation. They very well may. But they're going to probably say that we'll go through it. Because the elect are in the tribulation, and guess who's the elect? We are, right? That's what they believe. There will be some who are post-millennial, and the post-millennial view more so popular amongst like Presbyterians and some Reformed Baptists to a degree, that there'll be some tribulation, probably the worst of it's over. We're just going to slowly maybe build to the kingdom here on earth. So there's not really going to be a rapture view there. The only ones, the all-millennials may hold to a rapture view at the very end of some form of tribulation, but even that's real, it's an umbrella. It really is an umbrella, and really all millennialists are kind of confused on even what they are. I would probably say a good down-the-line all millennialist probably isn't going to hold to any rapture view, but then you'll talk to somebody who calls himself an all millennialist who may hold to, well, yeah, at the very end, the post-tribulation age, there will be some kind of rapture at the very end, but it's just for Christ's return. They'll use the return of Christ and the rapture for same thing, the second coming interchangeably. And so it's hard to say, well, Calvinists, they'll be all over the map there. And I know that's kind of a rambling thing, but that's kind of what you would find if you were to even investigate the matter yourself. All right, let's go ahead and move on. Here's an interesting article from the Gospel Coalition, something I want you to think about, and something I'm trying to think about. And and like I said, the reason why it's actually interesting and not just wrong is because it's not about theology. Don't go to the Gospel Coalition for theology. Go to the Gospel Coalition to make fun of it, or every now and then they'll have something like this. Here's the article. Could scrolling become the new smoking? I read the article here, and it starts out, for some reason, the Gospel Coalition is a little bit woke to some degree, but they mention the feminist movement and whatnot to mention how women started smoking to try to make a statement that, hey, we're going to be like the men, and which a lot of problems there when women start trying to be like men. But the point is once upon a time, smoking was considered something distinguished, something of power and whatnot, and you always saw, smoking being done all the time in Hollywood movies. And I remember being young enough that Chili's, some restaurants had smoking and non-smoking. But here's the interesting thing they have to say. Basically, the point of the article is looking back now, we can all say smoking is an unhealthy activity to engage in, okay? Now, the freedom of choice, if you want to smoke a cigarette, I guess you can, right? But understand there's going to be consequences. But the whole idea is we look back now and say, oh, of course, smoking a cigarette leading to unhealthy lungs, lung cancer, all those negative adverse results. Isn't that so obvious? How could you not see the apparent and obvious dangers and risks with smoking? One of the points that the article wants to make, though, is it possible that we are engaging in a habit that is very popular, very common, that is just as bad, just as detrimental to our own health, to our well-being, and we don't see it as being harmful. We just see it as something people commonly do. It's a massive time, and you can go on and read the whole thing, how everybody engages in this now. We've got iPads and everything in classrooms, you name it. But this is an interesting question. This is just kind of considered a way to spend the time, to in a leisure time, if you're just laying around on the couch, people don't necessarily just watch TV anymore, let alone read a book or sit there and smoke a cigarette, right? What are they doing? They're scrolling on their phone, whether it's Facebook, Instagram. I don't have TikTok. Right now I don't have Instagram on my phone either, but anyways, whatever social media app you can think of, or it's the news, scrolling on Fox News. We just do this now. It is the way that you pass the time. And you may even do it when you're feeling a little bit stressed. Maybe you've been working, you're tired, you want to do something else, and what do? You open up your phone and start scrolling. Any free chance you get, what do? You get out your phone and you start scrolling. I was watching a video yesterday, not yesterday, a couple days ago. I was scrolling on Instagram. And this husband climbs up on a ladder and he has his wife hold the ladder. And the wife takes her hand off of the ladder to reach into her pocket, pulls out her phone and scrolls, and the ladder slides, and the husband nearly falls off the roof because she wanted to get out her phone and scroll. And you could tell that it wasn't like she got a text message. She pulls out her phone and just starts doing the classic scrolling motion. I think this is very interesting. Once again, the Gospel Coalition is not something that I would see as a great source of, articles on theology, because they assume much. They're Calvinist in nature and liberal in nature. But this is an interesting article, though, that just talks about the dangers of becoming addicted to technology. I mean, think about, for example, the rate of car wrecks. I don't know what the ratio, what the numbers are, but here to lately, I know in our local area, there have been quite a few car wrecks reported. Used to it was always texting and driving, because that's like all that you could do. You could text because you had enough service to do that. But now, and I'm talking about somebody who can be guilty of this, we can search the internet, look up YouTube videos while we're driving. And I mean, smoking is something that kind of kills the older, or at least somebody who's doing it for a long time. Addiction to scrolling can get you killed like that in an instant, in a moment. So one of the things that I'm really working on is I'm trying to look forward, look ahead. What do I want my children to be like? And I've got to think about, if I want them to be a certain way, I need to be that way. I think that's something my parents instilled in me, right? That they wanted to be good examples for me. If I don't want my son to be a mindless, scrolling zombie, I better not be one. And the truth is, there's a lot of things on the internet that are bad. And if I want my children to avoid those things, maybe Dad should lead by example and not have those things on his phone. So I've been slowly dumbing down my phone. There's a number of apps, social media apps I used to have on my phone that I do not have anymore. And I go back and forth sometimes on some of the apps, and because I think they can be useful, there can be information on there and things like that. But I'm more and more leaning towards getting my phone back to being very basic. I can text, I can call, I do maintain email, and I keep YouTube on my phone because it is a helpful tool. I can be doing something around the house, I can be mowing or whatever, and I can put my earbuds in and I can listen to a sermon. Like this morning, I was cooking breakfast and I was listening to Dr. White's study on Abraham because I'm getting prepared to do Abraham. So I would encourage you, for once, if you did want to kind of read about an interesting way to think about things, because we do look at smoking as a harmful habit, not beneficial, and we look back on people who are addicted to smoking as, couldn't you see this coming? And I like things like this that say, hold on now, don't be on your high horse. You may be addicted to the current phase of cigarettes. Perhaps scrolling is the new cigarettes. What is your screen time on your phone? I'm telling you, I would be embarrassed for you to know mine. Now, to a degree, mine's not entirely accurate as far as screen time itself, because it's not like I'm just looking at it. I've got something going off to the side and I'm listening to it or what have you. But that doesn't justify it, though. It still is not good. It's still too much. So I would encourage you today to think about how much you're scrolling on your phone. And what is causing you to scroll on your phone? Is it Facebook? Is it the news? What is it? And maybe you'll find yourself much happier, feeling more energized, feeling better if you quit scrolling so much. So there's some interesting thoughts there for you on that matter. All right, now here's something I want to do. Speaking of scrolling, let's scroll through this little interesting link. So I thought, you know what? I talked about Life Church last week, and I wanted to see what Life Church has going on. They've got some different articles and things that they have on their website. And I was curious what they had on there. So here's the one I found, at least relatively quickly. Your Guide to Understanding the Bible. I think that's a very interesting article, worth looking into to see, hey, what is Life Church's recommendation to Bible reading, to understanding the Bible? And I think that Life Church really does serve as kind of how Got Questions is sort of the primary evangelical answer, even slightly maybe Calvinist answer, maybe slightly. I think that Life Church serves as a good control group for gauging and measuring what you're going to get in most typical evangelical type churches. Baptist-costal, even just some, Southern Baptist churches trying to copy it, but all these other popular chain type churches. So let's see what they have going on here, okay? Here's their the Life Church Guide to Understanding the Bible. So first and foremost, find a translation you understand. That right there is a very interesting and telling one. That does communicate to me that, because I would imagine, Greg, whatever his name is, Greg in charge of Life Church, he started this whole thing, and I imagine he has quite a bit of say on what goes on his website, or at the very least it means that he doesn't really pay much attention to what's being posted on his website, one of the two. Bible translation, Bible versions are not a major focus in evangelicalism. Okay, we've often said, the line that you commonly hear, what's the best Bible version? That's the one that you'll read. Well, this is that, okay? This is that entire idea that you need to find the Bible version that you'll actually read. The Bible translation quality, accuracy, faithfulness, underlying text issues are not a primary concern. It's which one do you like. So, you don't like all the these and thous, the wherefores, the therefores, the hithertos of the King James, then, maybe the NIV is more your speed, or the ESV, NLT, what have you. They recommend a few different things here. They do have a quick note on different versions. Let's see what this has to say. You might occasionally notice a series of letters after a reference to Scripture, such as John 7:37 through 38 NLT or Matthew 4:4 NIV. The letters NLT, NIV here indicate the versions of the Bible. In this case, New Living Translation or New International. Throughout history, different scholars have translated the original biblical texts in slightly different ways. Some translators aim for a more literal rendering of the original text, such as the ESV. It is kind of funny to me, the ESV. It's not near as literal as what it wants to claim. While others aim for more modern phrasing, such as the New Living Translation, all versions fall somewhere on this spectrum of word for word versus thought for thought. It is a simplification. I've used that simplified phrase before. The NIV falls right about in the middle. So it's a great version to read from. If you're just getting started, use the NIV, right? If you're just getting started, use the NIV. So anyways, that's about all they had to say there in different Bible versions. So this is what the vast majority of the evangelical world is thinking when it comes to their versions of the Bible, okay? So far, we just find the one you like, find the translation that you understand. Don't worry about accuracy or underlying text, because most churches would not dare to even venture into such topics, even though that's what we did in our Getting to Know Your Bible series, which is available on YouTube. Some of the audio is not great. It was my early days. Then again, some of my audio of recent's not all that great either. But I'm trying, okay? I'm trying. I'm working on some things. So just be patient. Donate to Baze Ministries and see what I can do. All right, here's number 2. Pick a time, place, and plan. Are you a morning person or night owl? Some of us are neither. Do you like quiet places or bustling coffee shops? Coffee shops, the hub of hipster Christianity. Do you learn by watching, listening, or reading? Is that implying that you shouldn't just read the Bible, that rather you can prefer to either watch a sermon or Bible reading or listen to it as opposed to read? I would encourage you, don't be somebody who only listens to the audio version of the Bible, okay? You've got to read it, all right? Read it. That was the original way that it was recorded, okay? Not in voice, but being written down. Now you could say, well, back in the day, a lot of people weren't literate, or people were illiterate and all those things. Maybe a lot of claims about illiteracy, and I'm sure to a degree some of that's true, but at the same time, I don't know, it seems to me like there have been people who can read it, so you should read it. It was written down for all of Israel. Israel, I think, was able to read it, to understand it, back in the days when it was written on the stone, the plain of Moreh by Joshua. Once you decide on a routine that works for you, start one of these Bible plans or consider finding a paper study Bible. I don't know what a paper study Bible means, but anyways. So they've got the Bible Explained, a 7-day Bible plan by Life Church. Consider a study Bible. Remember our Bible study mistakes, the conference that I did? Here we go. So they're already recommending using a study Bible. How to read the Bible, a 19-day plan of how to read the Bible. I'm just kind of looking at it right now. All right, let's get back to the main thing. So you got to pick a time, a place, and a plan. You know, this may be the most helpful to a degree. A time and a place. Your plan, I don't know. I mean, reading the Bible in a year, that's a very admirable goal. I don't think that that's the end-all, be-all of Bible reading. I think that you just read when you can, study when you can. But you needed to have some kind of dedicated time, whatever that is. And maybe that time may vary, but how are you going to read the Bible if you don't do it? So you do need to find a time. That number 2 may be the most helpful of this whole list here. Uncover the context. Think like a detective and discover the story behind the story. All right, I already don't like that. I don't like the story behind the story. I think there's the story. You don't have to uncover the hidden meaning. Let the text mean what it means. I feel like that's already implying that, hey, there's something more to it. There's a hidden, deeper meaning behind it all. The allegory of the text. The story behind the story. What is it really trying to say? What does the Bible really mean? Just let it speak for itself. I don't like the language. I don't like it. The Bible is a collection of 66 different books written in 3 languages, across 3 continents over a 1,500-year period by 40 different authors. Use tools like these to learn who the text was written to, when, where, and why. So then they, give you these tools. Don't just go to the Bible. The topic of this is your guide to understanding the Bible. And their guide is, hey, listen to what all these other people have to say. Go to the Bible app, go to Blue Letter Bible, which I do use Blue Letter Bible for some things, like textual analysis, but I don't take their notes. So it's already, hey, filter the Bible through the opinions of men. Go and just look at what the men think. Don't just read the Bible for yourself. When they say uncover the context, it means, what did the commentary say? What did the theologians say? What did the preacher say? I think you should just study it for yourself. Study to show yourself approved. Don't worry about repeating whatever line that has been said by everybody else. All right, here's the next one here. Read slowly and ask questions. There's no need to rush. Take your time and get curious. After studying the context, which they've already told us that studying the context just means repeating whatever you've heard from somebody else. What questions do you still have? Use your questions as tools to help you dig deeper through prayer, study, and conversations with friends. A life group is a safe place to make friends who will help you process your questions about the Bible. I mean, I guess that's fine. Read slowly and ask questions. You want to understand it. Asking questions is good. Questioning the assumptions is good, Dr. White would say. It's not bad, but we've already stumbled out of the gate in so many ways. Not being clear about context, not caring about translation. And then finally, and here you go, you were waiting for this one. Pray and apply what you learn. Space Pets. And that's what this is. It is Space Pets. There's a reason why I focused on it and emphasized it in the Bible conference, because Space Pets, it's the go-to move. Like it's what people do, okay? They recommend doing the Space Pets approach. So the Bible is meant to transform us, not just inform us. The more we apply what we learn from God's Word, the more we become like Jesus. Ask God what He wants you to learn about Him and yourself. I think that is making application the objective. I think that's what that is. I will say, may I be so bold, okay? I'm going to sound a little bit arrogant for a second, okay? I think that my conference on common Bible study mistakes is maybe some of the most important instruction and information on Bible study that you can find on the internet. I know that sounds very arrogant, but let me explain why I really believe that. Because I think that it is the combination or the culmination of the wisdom of many other great theologians. I am basically summarizing what so many other good Bible teachers have concluded about the Bible. And you know what they conclude? Is get away from just repeating what men say and get back to what the Bible says. Basically, the whole point of the conference is, here's all of the outside influences that sway you in how you view and interpret Scripture. And here's how you detrain your mind from making those mistakes. And you do it by stop making allegory the objective, because that's man's conclusion. Stop making application the objective. Stop making all the Bible allegory, because that's another interpretive matter of man. Start with the Bible. Let the Bible speak for itself and go from there. That's been my entire focus. Is I have noticed that the preachers with the most analytical approach to the Bible, who have a very confident understanding of doctrine, are not repeating what commentaries and theologians from previous times have said. You know what they do? They just study the Bible, and they don't worry about saying what Sproul said, what Spurgeon said, what so-and-so said, what Augustine said, Calvin, you name it. They just study the Bible. So that'd be my recommendation to Life Church. Maybe one of these days they'll invite me to do a Bible. Could you imagine me doing a Bible conference at Life Church? Wouldn't that be a fun time? Like what Rick says here, I enjoy listening to the Bible, but to study, I need to read. Actually seeing the words makes a big difference to me. I agree. And then he says the line, when you get to a therefore, you can easily go back to see what it is there for. Thank you for your kind words there, Ryan. Appreciate it. And then Rick also added there, I agree with you on your conference assessment. I use so many of the concepts that I learned about at the conference. I'm glad to hear that, Rick. And it's just stuff I've learned from others as well. It's not like I invented any of those ideas. It's what I just simply tried to compile the wisdom that I have gained from listening to others. Or insight. I don't know if I could even call it wisdom because it's not really my own. It's just the insight from others. Jay says he's in rainy Washington listening today. Go, Mark. Thanks, Jay. I forget that you're in Washington. Forgot that you're right up there by Allen. Not Allen, a town, but Allen, our friend Allen. Yeah, Paul says it's hot outside. Yeah, we're here in Oklahoma. We are here for it. It is... It's summertime now. Spring's over. Nice weather's done. Here we are. We're done for. All right, everybody. Well, thank you all so much today. I'm going to be going live tonight for our Abraham study, so I hope that you can join us. It'll be session number 4. I think I'm titling that Interesting Times in Egypt. I think that's what I titled it. Session 4, Interesting Times in Egypt. So I hope that you get to join us. We'll be going live at 6:30, right around there if my class will hurry up and get there in time. This has been Shields and Arrows. Thank you all so much. We'll be back tomorrow to answer your theology questions for Theology Thursday. Thank you.